In tonight's news edition, the finance minister says a gradual removal of government subsidies and modifying the electricity tariff is the answer to cut the budget deficit. US lawmakers are pushing Iran to take specific steps to slow its uranium enrichment and open a wider window into its nuclear program. And the European Union foreign policy chief says all sides in Egypt should feel they can take part in a political process. Good evening and welcome to the news. The Royal Committee for Enhancing National Integrity met senators, capping a series of meetings with official and civil society representatives and grassroots leaders nationwide. The panel today met Senate members in the presence of Prime Minister and Committee Head Abdullah Mansour. Also taken part in the discussions over the past weeks were university presidents, heads of student unions, government executives, political party and professional association chiefs, and representatives of political forces. The committee will conclude with holding a general national conference under the royal patronage to declare a national integrity charter and executive plan. Senate President Tahir al-Masri, who is a member of the committee, said today's meeting was part of the panel's approach to reach out to all social segments and political forces to listen to their views on achieving national integrity. He pledged the committee would seriously take all views and try to incorporate them into the final document. The economy dominated a host of domestic issues during an extensive dialogue that brought together the Ministerial Economic Development Committee and Secretaries General and representatives of political parties. The meeting, chaired by Minister of Political and Parliament Affairs Khallad, tackled economic and developmental issues and policies to upgrade economic performance. Head of the committee, Finance Minister Umayya Touqan, said that the government had an economic plan to raise growth rates and per capita income and stimulate investment. He reviewed the general budget and government solutions to economic problems. He stressed a thorough macroeconomic study and priority government spending, which will ultimately help raise the citizens' standard and quality of living and government revenues, including taxes. Touqan said the kingdom's fiscal situation, which is still within the economic corrective program, remained critical and needed a prudent approach. He said a gradual termination of subsidies and amending the electricity tariff while taking into consideration low-income groups was the best remedy to rectify the situation and reduce the budget deficit. The Zaati refugee camp in northern Jordan is now receiving Syrian refugees at a rate of 2,000 a day. Tens of thousands more are waiting to cross the border to escape the fighting. The United Nations Refugee Agency said it was the biggest displacement crisis in recent times, with more than 2 million Syrians forced out of their homes. Here's more.
Zaati refugee camp faces problems caused by a steadily rising number of Syrian refugees. Over 130,000 Syrian refugees are living in the Zaati camp near Mafraq, triggering problems like infrastructure deficit and managing difficulties in the area. Authorities are struggling to keep up with the increasing needs of the camp's residents. The United Nations Refugee Agency called on the international community for more help for the incoming Syrian refugees to Jordan. The camp will be divided into 12 parts, with each hosting about 10,000 people in the near future.
The camp will be able to house 150,000 Syrian refugees instead of 130,000, which means an increase of 20,000 people.
Established in July 2012, the Zaati refugee camp, 80 kilometers northeast of the capital Amman, accommodates 2,000 more refugees every day. Now it has 30,000 tents or boardrooms. The city, about 12 kilometers from the Syrian border, is the world's second largest refugee camp and has become the fourth largest city in Jordan. According to statistics released by the Jordanian government, they spend over $500,000 every day to maintain the camp, providing more than 500,000 pieces of bread and 4.2 million liters of water. So far, there are about 850 food stands and 3,000 shops owned by the Syrian refugees to make themselves self-reliant. Khalad for the news at 10.
Over to the Syria crisis. The United Nations said a team of chemical weapons experts has made encouraging initial progress as it works towards the elimination of Syria's poison gas arsenal. A UN statement said documents handed over by the Syrian government look promising, but further analysis, particularly of technical programs, will be necessary, and some more questions remain to be answered. The international team consists of experts from the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons in The Hague and United Nations personnel assisting them in their work. Last week, the UN Security Council unanimously demanded the elimination of Syria's chemical arsenal. US lawmakers are pushing Iran to take specific steps to slow its uranium enrichment and open a wider window into its nuclear program. But chief US negotiator with Iran, Under Secretary of State Wendy Sherman, urged the lawmakers to hold off on imposing additional sanctions against Tehran ahead of talks this month. Here's an update.
US lawmakers are said to be moving forward on new sanctions to further cut Iranian petroleum sales. However, some lawmakers held out the possibility of sanctions relief if Iran lives up to its UN Security Council obligations. The announcement was made by Senate Foreign Relations Committee Chairman Robert Menendez during a hearing. Under Secretary of State Wendy Sherman, the lead US negotiator with Iran, also urged US lawmakers to hold off on imposing additional sanctions against Iran ahead of talks in mid-October. In a testimony, Sherman made it clear the United States expected concrete actions from Tehran.
I want to be able to say to Iran, this is your, and I'm saying it here today because they'll listen to all of this, this is your opportunity. Come on the 15th of October with concrete, substantive actions that you will take, commitments you will make in a verifiable way, monitoring and verification that you will sign up to create some faith that there is reality to this, and our Congress will listen.
U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry also told reporters in Japan that the United States hopes to engage with Iran's new administration, but he stressed that Tehran must first prove it willing to end the standoff.
And the test we face now over these next weeks and months, not a long period of time, mind you, over a short period of time, is determine whether or not that is in fact what Iran intends. If they do intend to be peaceful, I believe there's a way to get there.
Iranian media said Parliament strongly endorsed President Hassan Rouhani's diplomatic bid to dispel mistrust at the United Nations last week. His visit ended with a historic phone call with U.S. President Barack Obama. Rouhani has reiterated Iran's insistence that it doesn't seek nuclear weapons, but has promised to clear up international concerns. He hoped for an easing of sanctions that have hit its ability to export oil.
We said from the beginning that we are not looking for win-lose games. We are looking for a win-win game we can win together. When the sanctions are removed, both sides will win. When mutual confidence is built, the two sides will win.
Western diplomats are cautious about the new U.S.-Iranian relationship, saying Iran has yet to offer any concrete proposals. Mohammed Al-Fuqaha for the News at 10.
European Union Foreign Policy Chief Catherine Ashton said it was important for all sides in Egypt to feel they can take part in a political process. Ashton has been in Cairo this week to encourage reconciliation between the Muslim Brotherhood and the interim government, which was installed after the army removed President Mohamed Morsi on July 3rd, following mass protest against his rule.
Of course, in all our deliberations, the importance of inclusiveness to ensure that the political future of Egypt belongs to the Egyptian people, that they are the decision makers, and that they have the opportunity with elections in the near future to make their voices well and truly heard. We're not mediating any talks, okay? I think there is quite a lot of outreach, but I don't know the detail of that.
At least 82 migrants were believed drowned after a migrant boat caught fire and sank off the Sicilian island of La Bindosa. The UN High Commissioner for Refugees and the International Organization for Migration said an estimated 500 passengers on the boat were all believed to be Eritreans coming from Libya. More in this report.
Coffins arrive at the port of Lampedusa to carry away the bodies of scores of migrants drowned off the Sicilian coast. Bodies fished from the water were laid out along the quayside as the death toll rose. It was one of the worst disasters to hit the perilous route for migrants seeking to reach Europe from Africa. The numbers of the dead are still changeable, with the latest death toll reported to be at least 92. Officials earlier at the port put the numbers at 73 dead, but pointed out that many people were still missing. Pope Francis called it a disgrace and expressed Italy's sadness and dismay over the death of such a large number of migrants. Francis called for a united effort to help prevent similar tragedies happening in the future. The European Commission said the European Union needs to do more to fight the criminal networks that are behind the often fatal attempts by migrants to get into Europe. A spokesman said Europe should open more legal ways for people to enter the bloc.
We have to make sure that we open more legal ways to come to Europe. We have to make sure that we cooperate in order to have these possibilities framed into very precise and strict, under very precise and strict conditions.
Today's accident comes just 4 days after 13 migrants drowned when their boat foundered off eastern Sicily. Hiba Al-Atoum for the News at 10.
Russia evacuated embassy staff and their families from Libya after gunmen tried to storm its diplomatic mission in the city of Tripoli. The attackers had planned to avenge the murder of a Libyan military officer by a Russian woman living in the city. The decision to evacuate staff was taken after Libyan Foreign Minister Mohammed Abdelaziz visited the embassy. The ministry said he had told the Russian ambassador that Libya could not guarantee the security of the Russian embassy and recommended his employees leave the diplomatic mission. The statement said staff and their families were evacuated to Tunisia and expected to return to Russia tomorrow. The attack underlined the volatility in Libya 2 years after the overthrow of Muammar Gaddafi and the problems faced by Russia as it tries to put billions of dollars worth of energy and arms deals back on track. The partial U.S. government shutdown entered its third day as Republicans and Democrats in Congress remained locked in a bitter dispute over federal funding. Closed signs could still be seen throughout Washington, D.C., marking numerous monuments and memorials shut due to the shutdown. Fears are rising that the budgetary standoff is merging with a much more complex fight in mid-October over raising the federal debt limit. The result could prove dangerous and unpredictable for the economy and be more difficult to resolve than the shutdown alone. The central problem now is that congressional Republicans view the debt ceiling as their best chance to negotiate concessions from President Barack Obama.
So this is not about spending, and this isn't about fiscal responsibility. This whole thing is about one thing: the Republican obsession with dismantling the Affordable Care Act and denying affordable health insurance to millions of Americans. That's all this has become about. That seems to be the only thing that unites the Republican Party these days. Servants who fight hard every day for...
At least 15 people were killed in an attack on a pro-government militia commander in Pakistan's lawless northwestern tribal area. Security forces said the attack comes as Pakistan's government is mulling peace talks with the Taliban, although no conditions have yet been set. Previous deals with the Taliban have collapsed. A car bomb rammed into the compound of Mullah Nabi Hanafi, the leader of an anti-Taliban militia he formed after breaking away from the Taliban in 2009. Sources in the security forces said 2 suicide bombers launched a second attack, but were killed in the shootout by Hanafi's men. Hanafi was among the 10 men wounded in the attack and was taken to a district hospital. At least 16 people were killed when a passenger plane crashed shortly after takeoff just outside Lagos Airport's domestic terminal in Nigeria. Nigerian authorities said the airport's authority general manager said at a news conference the plane was a Brazilian-made Embraer 120. The Associated Airlines plane was flying from Nigeria's commercial capital to the southwestern town of Akure. The head of Lagos Fire Service said at the site of the crash that all bodies have been recovered from the debris. Now let's go to China. Tens have been killed and hundreds injured in the country over the last 2 months not because of bombs or explosions, but as a result of wasp stings. A surge in the number of wasp attacks in China's northwestern Shanxi province has caused the death of at least 41 people and more than 1,600 injured. Hospitals saw an influx of patients suffering from severe stings after being attacked by wasps, sometimes in swarms. Most of the attacks have taken place in the cities of Hanzhong and Kang and Shanglu and involve farmers and other people working outside. Local fire departments have removed and destroyed hundreds of hives around the province to prevent further attacks. China Open third seed David Ferrer beat Marinko Matsovic 5-7, 6-1, 6-2 to reach the quarterfinals in Beijing. The Spanish player won more services points and saved more break points than the Australian and produced some good net play than an ace to take the match. Also in the China Tennis Open, fifth seed Richard Gasquet cruised past Bernard Tomic by 7-6, 6-4. Tomic served 9 aces to Frenchman Gasquet's 4 and saved a greater proportion of break points, but was noticeably worse on his second serves and returns. Gasquet will face Ferrer in the quarterfinals. We stay with the China Open. Novak Djokovic of Serbia and American Sam Querrey will also meet in the quarterfinals of the tournament. Top seed Djokovic was taken to 3 sets by Spain's Fernando Verdasco before winning 7-5, 2-6, 6-2. Querrey beat 6th seed Stanislas Wawrinka 6-3, 7-6 in a game that lasted for 76 minutes. The American has played Djokovic 7 times, winning just once. Finally, a look at the weather. Chilly tonight with a chance for scattered showers in the country's north, while winds will be westerly moderate to brisk. A slight drop in temperatures is in the forecast for tomorrow, so it will be partly cloudy with local showers, especially in the northern and central regions. Winds will be westerly brisk, blowing dust in the Badia. The Red Sea port city of Aqaba should expect moderate conditions tomorrow with northerly brisk winds and calm seas. The weatherman warns of poor visibility due to dust and advises caution on slippery roads. Next are the lows and highs for tonight and tomorrow. To end the news, here is a reminder of the day's top stories. The finance minister says a gradual removal of government subsidies and modifying the electricity tariff is the answer to cut the budget deficit. US lawmakers are pushing Iran to take specific steps to slow its uranium enrichment and open a wider window into its nuclear program. And the European Union foreign policy chief says all sides in Egypt should feel they can take part in a political process. And that's the end of tonight's news. I am Rad Luplush. Thanks for being with us and have a good night.